start from the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. Today we are going to start our third lecture, that is tumor of urinary bladder and upper urinary tract. Now, outline of the talk will be specimen receiving and sample registration, macroscopic examination, grossing, microscopic examination, and issuing report. Now, the first thing to check is specimen request form. The entire clinical information should be provided in the specimen request form, particularly regarding the anatomical location of the tumor within the bladder, the cystoscopic appearance of the tumor, the clinical and radiological detail of the patient, and if any prior urine cytology has been done, report of that should also be mentioned. Whether the patient has got any previous therapy, whether any previous biopsy has been done, and what was the report of that biopsy, because some epithelial alteration can occur as a result of some anesthetic drugs like ketamine, and pseudocarcinomatous epithelial proliferation can occur following the treatment and some intervention. And in cystoprostatectomy specimen, the serum PSA value, the radiological appearance of the prostate gland should also be mentioned, because sometimes prostatic adenocarcinoma may involve the bladder. Now, what are the specimen types that we receive in bladder and urethral tumors? Those are cystoscopic biopsies, transurethral resection specimen, cystectomy, it may be partial or radical, diverticulectomy, urethrectomy, anterior exenteration, that is a radical operation in case of tumor in female patient, where the bladder along with the uterus and cervix are removed, and accompanying lymphadenectomy specimen are also sometimes present with the radical cystectomy specimen, and sometimes we receive the cytological specimen, that is brushing or urine cytology for cell block preparation. And in case of renal pelvis and ureteric tumor, the specimen types are the ureteroscopic biopsies, transurethral resection of tumors, nephrourerectomy, ureterectomy, including bladder cuff. If the tumor involves the distal ureter, then of course lymphadenectomy in case of radical specimen, and also the cytological specimen and brush cytology. Now the specimen handling. In case of partial cystectomy specimen, the specimens are in the shape of a disc, and they do not need incision for fixation. The diverticulectomy specimen are open at the site of communication with the bladder lumen, and generally they also do not need incision prior to their dissection. The radical cystectomy specimen may be received fresh, or they may be inflated with around 150 to 250 ml of buffered formalin for fixation of the mucosal surfaces, and the specimen are immersed in a large pot of formalin. Now, fixation is done usually with 10% neutral buffered formalin. During transportation, dry ice can be used. The volume of formalin should be 5 to 10 times of the volume of the main specimen. The endoscopic biopsies from renal pelvis and ureter may be collected in Barnes fluid, because these fixative provide a good nuclear detail, and the large specimen should be incised promptly for formalin penetration prior to grossing. Now, radical cystectomy specimen, after overnight fixation, the formalin within the bladder lumen is drained out and specimen is incised in a Y-shaped incision. The specimen may be inked to indicate the resection margins. The anterior and the posterior surface, the lateral surfaces of the bladder can be inked with the different colors.
Dr. Das, sorry to interrupt. You please have to re-share your screen. Somebody had shared the screen, so your screen is now out. Please share your screen again. Requesting all participants, please don't share your screen. Yes, sir. You are right back. Thank you. Please share your screen. Yeah, that's fine.
If prostate is present, it may be severed below the level of bladder neck. The bladder may then be bisected in a sagittal or coronal plane, depending upon the location of the tumor, whether it is in the trigon, whether it is in the base or in the lateral wall. If urethra is attached, it should be severed at the level of prostatic apex. Now, this is the picture of cystectomy specimen. The anterior surface is little bit rough and the posterior surface is smooth. As shown in this picture, the different surfaces are colored with different inks. The specimen is opened through a Y-shaped incision. This is the trigon, the posterior wall. This is the ureteric orifice, the corner. And this is a cystoprostatectomy specimen with the verumentanum. Now, what are the blocks we should include? First, the ureteric and urethral cut margin should be taken. The tumor, including the deepest point of invasion, should be blocked. The other mucosal abnormalities, whether there is presence of any mucosal patch or whitish mucosa, that should also be sampled. Whether if there is presence of any suspicious area on the imaging and that has been mentioned in the report should also be sampled. Then prostate and seminal vesicle to exclude the involvement by urothelial carcinoma. The anterior wall of the uterus, cervix and vagina in case of anterior exenteration specimen in female. The vaginal margin in anterior exenteration specimen. Other representative block from the included organ along with the main specimen, and all the lymph node sent should also be blocked. In anterior exenteration specimen from female patient, the urethral margin is usually small and irregular. It is best to sample it before bisecting the bladder. The lymphadenectomy specimen should be submitted in toto, or representative section may be given if the adequate number of lymph nodes are available macroscopically. Now, bladder transurethral dissection specimen, the weight of the sample must be recorded. Ideally, a minimum of first 20 gram or 10 cassettes should be given, plus at least one cassette for every 5 gram of the tumor. Further tissue should always be submitted if no muscular propria is seen in the histological examination until the entire specimen has been processed. In partial cystectomy specimen done for a urethral tumor at the fundus of the bladder, serial slices of the tumor bulging into the perivesical connective tissue should be sampled, should be done, and the remaining urethus should be examined. Slices of the urethus up to the level of umbilicus should be inspected, and a few pieces are selected for histological examination. The soft tissue margin of the urethral tract and umbilical skill margin should also be included. And in nephrectomy specimen for pelvic tumor, the specimen should be opened into an anterior and posterior coronal hubs for fixation, exposing the renal pelvic tumor. Further transverse slices are usually required if the tumor is large. Vascular and ureteric margin must be sampled. In nephroureterectomy specimen, the overall dimension of the specimen, including the length of the ureter, should be recorded. The location, size, and number of the tumor, whether it is single or multifocal tumor, should also be recorded. If there is macroscopic invasion, the depth of invasion should be taken. Invasion of pelvic and perinephric fat and renal parenchyma should be mentioned in the grossing description. The invasion of perinephric fat is particularly important because it upstages the tumor to T4, in contrast to the renal parenchymal tumor where the hilar fat involvement is staged as PT3. In ureterectomy specimen, they generally received with one luminal end open, and they do not require incision prior to the dissection. Now, this is the staging of urachal tumors, and this is the urinary bladder tumor staging. The TIS is for in situ carcinoma. It is flat lesion I will discuss, and TA for papillary lesion. Then T1 for invasion into lamina propria. The T2 if the muscularis propria is involved. If it is superficial muscularis propria, then it will be T2A, and if it is deep muscularis propria, then it will be T2B. If perivesical soft tissue involvement is present, then it will be staged as T3A. And if the perivesical soft tissue invasion is macroscopically evident, then it will be staged as T3B. T4 stage is given if the tumor invade the adjacent organs. Now we will discuss the different variants and new subtypes of bladder carcinoma. The urothelial carcinoma shows divergent differentiation. Many of these variants are important for prognostic and therapeutic implications. The 4th edition of WHO classification of tumor has included a few new entities. We will discuss this is the WHO classification of tumor of urothelial tract. Broadly, the tumors are classified into urothelial tumors, squamous cell neoplasm, glandular neoplasm, urachal carcinoma, the tumor of Mullerian type, neuroendocrine tumor, melanocytic tumor, and mesenchymal tumor. And last but not the least, the hematopoietic and lymphoid tumors. The urothelial tumors are basically divided into two broad categories, that is non-invasive tumor and that is invasive tumor. The 4th edition has included the 4 categories of urothelial tumor as a new entities, that is lipid-rich tumor, clear cell tumor, tumors of Mullerian type, and tumor arising in a bladder diverticulum. We will discuss one by one. Now, what are the non-invasive urothelial lesions? As I said, this can be divided broadly into 2 categories. One is papillary lesion and one is flat lesion. The papillary lesions are non-invasive papillary urothelial carcinoma, low grade, and then high grade non-invasive papillary urothelial carcinoma. Then papillary urothelial neoplasm of low malignant potential, urothelial papilloma, and inverted papilloma. The flat lesions are urothelial proliferation of uncertain malignant potential, urothelial dysplasia, and urothelial carcinoma in situ. First, we will discuss the non-invasive papillary urothelial lesions. This is non-invasive papillary urothelial carcinoma, low grade. Here we can see the tumor are arranged in papillary architecture. The cells, the polarity of the cells are almost maintained. The nuclei show little irregularity in their sizes, and chromatin texture is mildly hyperchromatic. This is the non-invasive papillary urothelial carcinoma, high grade. The tumor cells show large nuclei with marked variation in the nuclear sizes. The chromatin is vesicular. The conspicuous nucleoli can be seen, and polarity is almost disorganized. Now, the papillary urothelial neoplasm of low malignant potential. Here, the papillary structures are lined by urothelium that is thicker than the normal urothelium, but architectural abnormalities are absent, as for example, the polarity is preserved and the cells are almost monomorphic with little variation in the nuclear sizes. Now, how to assess the papillary lesions? First, we have to check whether the polarity is maintained or not. If polarity is not maintained, then we have to check for the cytological features. If the polarity is not maintained and the cytology is of high-grade nature, that is marked nuclear enlargement, anisonucleosis, vesicular chromatin, and there is conspicuous nucleoli, then the high-grade urothelial carcinoma should be considered. And if the polarity is maintained, there is little variation in the nuclear sizes, then it will be diagnosed as urothelial carcinoma low grade. And if there is no cytological or architectural abnormality other than the increase in the thickness with the papillary architecture, then papillary urothelial neoplasm of low malignant potential diagnosis should be assigned. Now, next entity we will discuss, that is urothelial papilloma. There is simple hierarchical branching with minimal fusion between the papilla. Thickness is normal, whereas in papillary urothelial neoplasm of low malignant potential, there is increased thickness, but in urothelial papilloma, the thickness is almost normal. Cells are oriented linearly perpendicular to the basement membrane. That means the polarity is almost maintained. The umbrella cell layers are preserved, but these umbrella cells may show some reactive changes in the form of cytoplasmic vacuolization, multilobation, or nucleomegaly. Then inverted urothelial papilloma, here the growth pattern is inverted. The urothelium invaginates into the lamina propria. The cells are arranged in cords or in trabeculae with peripheral palisading and central streaming. Here we have shown that there is central streaming and the peripheral palisading. The cord should be thin and cytology is bland. That means the nuclear pleomorphism or anisonucleus is absent and the chromatin pattern is almost regular and nucleoli is invisible. Now, inverted urothelial papilloma should be distinguished from the papillary urothelial carcinoma with an inverted growth pattern. The urothelial carcinoma with inverted growth pattern basically show atypical mitosis may be present, but in inverted papilloma, the polarity is maintained and mitotic figures are almost absent. And if we perform immunohistochemical study, then there will be high P53 expression in case of urothelial carcinoma, but in inverted papilloma, the P53 expression is less or absent, and Ki67 index. Now, papillary urothelial carcinoma with inverted growth pattern, there is branching and expansile anastomosing cords of urothelium. The stroma is stroma shows little inflammatory cell infiltrate, and there is stromal invasion and cytological atypia is evident, but the stroma and the tumor cell interface has a smooth contour. Now, this chart is showing the difference between the different papillary urothelial lesions. There is papilloma, papillary urothelial neoplasm of low malignant potential, low-grade papillary carcinoma, and high-grade papillary carcinoma. In carcinoma, the papilla show fusion and branching, but in papilloma and papillary urothelial neoplasm of low malignant potential, the fusion are absent, and moreover, the polarity of the cells are maintained. Nucleoli are prominent in case of high-grade tumor. In low-grade papillary urothelial carcinoma, the nucleoli are usually inconspicuous, and if present, they are small. And mitosis are present in all the layers of the urothelium in case of carcinoma, but they are absent or basal in case of papilloma or urothelial neoplasm of low malignant potential. Now, non-invasive flat urothelial lesions. First, we will discuss the urothelial dysplasia. The macroscopically, this lesion may appear as an insignificant one or as the erythema erosion, or rarely they may present as ulceration. There is marked loss of polarity. That means linearity of the linear arrangement of the cell is lost, and there is increased cytoplasmic eosinophilia. The nuclear membrane is irregular. The conspicuous nucleoli is not conspicuous, though here the nuclear membrane irregularity is evident. But pleomorphism, prominent nucleoli are not seen in case of urothelial dysplasia. If dysplasia should not be made, and it will then be diagnosed as carcinoma in situ. The reactive atypia sometimes may simulate the urothelial dysplasia, but the urothelium is chronically inflamed and inflammatory cell infiltrate are present in the background. Mitotic activity may be present, but atypical mitotic figure are seen as of reactive atypia. Now, urothelial carcinoma in situ, the mucosa may be unremarkable or it may be erythematous on gross appearance. The mucosal erosion may be present. The nuclear anaplasia marked as that of high-grade urothelial carcinoma. The nuclei are enlarged, they are pleomorphic, the chromatin is condensed, they appear as hyperchromatic, and mitotic figures are present, including the upper layer of the urothelium, and often at typical mitotic figure like tripolar or tetrapolar mitosis can be seen. Now, there is no immunohistochemical stain that can differentiate between carcinoma in situ and urothelial dysplasia, but CK20 and CD44 are sometimes used. CK20 is normally present in the umbrella cell, but in carcinoma in situ, there is full thickness staining with CK20. The CD44 is generally expressed in the basal layer of the urothelium, but this expression of CD44 is lost in case of carcinoma in situ. The P53 is positive in situ carcinoma, and P53 is absent in reactive atypia or normal urothelium. Now, urothelial proliferation of uncertain malignant potential, it is basically a flat lesion. The lesion, there is marked thickening of the urothelium, usually more than 10 layers are seen, and the cell density, the polarity is maintained, the atypia is absent. Now, some metaplastic changes may mimic the neoplasia. The first one is nephrogenic metaplasia. In nephrogenic metaplasia, small hollow tubules similar to the mesonephric tubules are seen. Cells have clear or eosinophilic cytoplasm. Small nucleoli are absent. The basement membrane is thickened. Inflammatory cell infiltration is seen in between the tubules. The lamina propria, the lesion extends up to lamina propria, but the muscularis propria does not show presence of any tubules. The most of the cases show a cystic pattern of growth. Another entity that is metaplastic condition but may mimic the urothelial neoplasia, that is von Brand nest and cystitis cystica and glandularis. Von Brand nest often exhibit a vague globular distribution in the form of invaginations. There is non-infiltrative growth and there is variable connection to the surface. The gland-like lumens are sometimes seen in case of cystitis, that is the feature of cystitis glandularis, and cystically dilated lumens with cystic cavity filled with eosinophilic fluid characterizes the cystitis cystica. Now we will discuss the infiltrating urothelial carcinoma. The infiltrating urothelial carcinoma can present with a wide range of architectural patterns. There may be variable size nests with smooth borders. There may be sheets of cells. There may be trabeculae, cords, or single cell, or there may be a mixture of patterns. However, in most tumors, there is no specific feature that resemble a normal urothelium. The overwhelming majority of invasive urothelial carcinoma are usually high-grade tumors. Here we are showing the urothelial carcinoma with divergent differentiation. Now, first, we will discuss the urothelial carcinoma with squamous differentiation. The squamous differentiation is defined by the presence of intercellular bridges. Some cases of urothelial carcinoma in situ may be the only urothelial component. The rest of the invasive component may consist of the squamous cell-like morphology. The tumor with any identifiable urothelial element are classified with urothelial carcinoma with squamous differentiation. That is the main differentiating point between the pure squamous cell carcinoma of urinary bladder and urothelial carcinoma with squamous differentiation. In pure squamous cell carcinoma of urinary bladder, no urothelial component, even in the form of in situ, will be present. Whether in case of urothelial carcinoma with squamous differentiation, variable amount of urothelial component will be seen. In urothelial carcinoma with squamous differentiation, the percentage of squamous component should be mentioned in the report. There is no specific marker that can differentiate between the squamous differentiation in urothelial carcinoma and the pure squamous cell carcinoma. As I said, it entirely depends upon the presence or absence of any urothelial component in the form of in situ or invasive forms. Now, urothelial carcinoma is characterized by tubular or enteric glands with mucin secretion, sometimes colloid carcinoma-like features with nest of cells floating in the extracellular mucin are seen. The virus-like structures, some people, and there may be a Mullerian-like differentiation condition, conventional urothelial carcinoma. This should be differentiated from the clear cell Mullerian adenocarcinoma of urinary bladder, that is GATA3 negative, but in conventional urothelial carcinoma with Mullerian-like differentiation, the GATA3 stain will be positive. In urothelial carcinoma with glandular differentiation, an estimate of percentage of glandular component should also be provided in the report. As in case of urothelial carcinoma with squamous differentiation, the expression of MARC5 apomicin may be useful to differentiate it from the colonic carcinoma. The TART promoter mutation may be seen in 70% cases of urothelial carcinoma with glandular differentiation, whereas the TART mutation are consistently negative in primary adenocarcinoma of urinary bladder. Now, urothelial carcinoma with trophoblastic differentiation, a syncytial trophoblastic-like giant cells are present in 28 to 35% case of the urothelial carcinoma. The number of beta hCG immunoreactive cells are associated with higher cancer stage and grade. Elevated level of beta hCG into the serum may be associated with poor response to radiation therapy. In patients with metastatic disease, the elevated secretion of beta hCG into the serum has been linked to the lower response to the chemotherapy. The most important differential diagnostic consideration is choriocarcinoma. The diagnosis of which may require a high copy number, isochromosome 12p, and in situ hybridization. Now, other urothelial carcinoma with divergent differentiation, carcinoma component present should be reported, as this is very much relevant in guiding the therapy. These tumors are nowadays considered as a part of neuroendocrine of bladder, and therefore they are managed as small cell carcinoma of lung. Now, the variants of urothelial carcinoma. First, the nested urothelia in appearance resembling a bond nest. Infiltrating nest may exhibit small tubular lumens. The architecture pattern of the tumor varies from solid expansile to infiltrative nests. The convolution is frequently present. The differential diagnosis are prominent Von-Brand nest, cystitis cystica, cystitis glandularis, inverted papilloma, nephrogenic metaplasia, and carcinoid tumor. This nested urothelial carcinoma is linked with the advanced tumor stage and nodal invasion. This is the nested variant of urothelial carcinoma, the cyst-like spaces. Now, what are the mimickers of nested variant of urothelial carcinoma? That is Von-Brand nest, nephrogenic metaplasia, cystitis cystica or glandularis, and paraganglioma of urinary bladder. The nephrogenic metaplasia usually show PAC stage positivity, and in florid Von-Brand nest, the Ki67 index is generally low, and the paraganglioma show positive staining with neuroendocrine markers. Now, microcystic urothelial carcinoma. This tumor may show a deceptively benign appearance. The cysts are usually round to oval, and periphery of the larger cysts are frequently punctuated by many smaller cysts. The differential diagnosis includes benign proliferation such as florid polypoid cystitis cystica and glandularis, as well as the adenocarcinoma of urinary bladder. The deep invasion of the bladder wall are usually present in case of microcystic variant of urothelial carcinoma. This tumor may simulate the prostatic adenocarcinoma with a Gleason score of 3+3, but this tumor is negative for prostate-specific markers, that is PSA or NKX 3.1. The microcystic urothelial carcinoma share similar immunohistochemical features with that of conventional urothelial carcinoma. Now, micropapillary urothelial carcinoma, morphologically this tumor presents as micropapilla without any vascular core. There may be present of morphological rings like signating cell carcinoma. Tumor cells may present within the neoplastic lacunae. This tumor is usually MARC1 positive. The micropapillary urothelial carcinoma may resemble papillary serous carcinoma of the ovary. The true vascular and lymphatic invasion is very much common in this tumor. Some studies have shown that intravesical therapy is ineffective in case of micropapillary variant of urothelial carcinoma, and therefore, even in the T1 stage, that is invasion in the lamina propria, the cystectomy may have to be done. Now,
Dr. Indrani, once again, your screen is being not shared. Somebody has come in, so please share your screen again. Requesting everybody, please don't share your screen. Please share your screen, sir, please. Yeah, it's fine now. Please make it full screen. Yeah.
So, in lymphoepithelioma like urothelial carcinoma, the epithelial component is usually composed of nest, sheets, and pods of undifferentiated cells, showing nuclear spindling, the nuclear hyperchromasia, nuclear anaplasia, and conspicuous nucleoli. In between the tumor cells, there are innumerable numbers of lymphocytes, that may be T or B lymphocytes, admixed with some histiocytes. Now, plasmacytoid or signating type of urothelial carcinoma, they are usually present as alveolar arrangement, signating like cell with eccentrically pushed nuclei and abundant vacuolated cytoplasm sometimes are evident. It is an aggressive type of tumor and characterized by presence of discohesive individual cells. As I said, a number of single cells with cytoplasmic vacuoles mimicking the signating cells may be present. The urothelial nature of the cells are confirmed by immunohistochemical study, that is CK7, CK20, both stain may be positive, P63 is positive, as well GATA3 and uroplakin-3. Tumor show loss of ecadherin expression. Now, sarcomatoid urothelial carcinoma, there is this neoplasm shows variable admixture of the carcinomatous and sarcomatous element. That the sarcomatous element basically a metaplastic change of the carcinomatous area. Now, immunoprofile and the differential diagnosis of sarcomatoid carcinoma, that is one is inflammatory myofibroblastic tumor, leiomyosarcoma and rhabdomyosarcoma. The sarcomatoid urothelial carcinoma are pan-cytokeratin positive and they are negative for ALK1, desmin or H-caldesmon. The inflammatory myofibroblastic tumor are also pan-cytokeratin positive, but they are negative for P63 and the ALK1 expression may or may not be there. The leiomyosarcoma shows H-caldesmon staining and rhabdomyosarcoma are obviously desmin and myogenin positive. The sarcomatoid urothelial carcinoma show urothelial specific marker like GATA3, but the GATA3 is negative in sarcomatoid carcinoma of the kidney. The giant cell urothelial carcinoma, The pleomorphic giant cell carcinoma is a rare and a newly included entity in the WHO classification. The prognosis is very poor. The tumor cells are very much pleomorphic with bizarre giant cell to solid expansile nests. Frequently, atypical mitosis can be seen. These tumors may be confused with urothelial carcinoma with trophoblastic differentiation because these giant cells may mimic the syncytial trophoblastic giant cells, but this tumor is beta HCG negative and they are GATA3 positive as the case of other urothelial carcinomas. Now, lipid-rich urothelial carcinoma, the lipoblast-like cells may be seen in the lipid-rich urothelial carcinoma. They are seen in association with conventional urothelial carcinoma. The prognosis is bad. Now, clear cell urothelial carcinoma, up to 2/3 of the urothelial carcinoma can show foci of clear cell changes. These clear cell changes are basically due to accumulation of abundant cytoplasmic glycogen. That's why these tumors are PAS positive but PAS D negative. That means the digestion transforms the tumor to PAS negative. The differential diagnosis is clear cell Mullerian type carcinoma of urinary bladder, PEComa, and metastatic clear cell renal cell carcinoma. The exact diagnosis can be clinched by immunostaining with CK7, P63, and GATA3. Now, poorly differentiated urothelial carcinoma. This is a new category. The poorly differentiated tumor span a spectrum of tumor that includes the mixed morphological tumors like small cell carcinoma, sarcomatoid carcinoma, giant cell carcinoma, undifferentiated carcinoma, not otherwise specified, and so-called osteoclast-rich undifferentiated carcinoma. They are generally considered as the de-differentiated form of urothelial carcinoma. Now, this is a summary of urothelial carcinoma with divergent differentiation with their main histopathological features and immunohistochemical profile, the common molecular alterations. Now, the squamous cell neoplasm. As I said earlier, the diagnosis of bladder squamous cell carcinoma is preserved for tumors with purely squamous element. There should not be present of any urothelial component. The presence of keratinizing squamous metaplasia in the adjacent plaque epithelium are particularly diagnostic for the pure squamous cell carcinoma of bladder. HPV has a limited role in development of this tumor. Now, adenocarcinoma. The adenocarcinoma may show enteric type morphology or mucinous morphology or mixed enteric and mucinous type morphology. The long-standing intestinal metaplasia, particularly in patients of urinary bladder exostrophy, is associated with this tumor. The tumors express CDX2 and CK20, but nuclear expression of beta-catenin is particularly important because it favors colonic origin, but the nuclear expression of beta-catenin is absent in the primary vesical adenocarcinoma. That means primary urinary bladder adenocarcinoma, the beta-catenin is negative. This is the primary enteric type adenocarcinoma of the urinary bladder, and this is the mucinous type adenocarcinoma. Large amount of extracellular mucin pool is present with the glandular fragment. Now, urachal carcinoma. The urachal carcinoma usually located in the urinary bladder dome or in the anterior wall. The urachus is present between the bladder and the umbilicus. The epicenter of the carcinoma is usually in the bladder wall. For diagnosing the tumor, the primary in the elsewhere should be absent. The presence of urachal remnant in association with tumor is supportive for the diagnosis. Sheldon staging system is used. Morphologically, two types of urachal carcinoma are seen, that is cystic and non-cystic variety. Immunohistochemically, the urachal adenocarcinoma expresses CDX2, CK20, REG4, and 34 beta E12. Now, tumors of Mullerian type. This tumor arises from the pre-existing Mullerian precursors like endometriosis or rarely Mullerianosis. And this tumor category includes the clear cell and the endometrioid carcinoma. These tumors generally localizes as in the urinary bladder neck or in the trigon. Histologically, they may show tubulocystic papillary or diffuse pattern of growth. Eosinophilic secretions are seen within the tubule. Papilla is present, and the core of the papilla are generally hyalinized, and hobnail cells may be present. The clear cell carcinoma of Mullerian type, usually positive for CAM5.2, CK7, epithelial membrane antigen, PAX8, Amacar, and CA125. Now the neuroendocrine tumor, the small cell neuroendocrine carcinoma, they show similar feature as that of pulmonary counterpart. Large cell neuroendocrine carcinoma may happen in the urinary bladder, but they are generally rare. And well differentiated neuroendocrine tumor can also be seen in urinary bladder. Now, paraganglioma. About 10% of paraganglioma occur in the extraadrenal sites, and of this 10% are localized within the urinary bladder. The cells are typically arranged in distinctive nests that is called gel barrel. Pseudorosette formation may be seen. The cells are separated by delicate plexiform vascular network and or the fibroblastia. The cells are large and polygonal, have amphophilic or acidophilic cytoplasm with central or slightly eccentric nucleus. The chromatin can be smudged or it may be hyperchromatic. Mitosis and necrosis are usually rare in paraganglioma. On immunohistochemistry, they show positive staining with neuroendocrine marker like chromogranin, neuron-specific enolase, synaptophysin, and the sustentacular cells present between the fibrous septa separating the paraganglioma cells show positivity for S100. The mesenchymal, melanocytic, and hematolymphoid tumors are not specific to urinary bladder. Now, epithelial tumor of upper urinary tract, the histopathology of renal pelvis urothelial tumor is similar to that of bladder tumor or bladder tumor of urothelial origin. They may be invasive or non-invasive. The entire morphological spectrum of urothelial carcinoma of urinary bladder can be seen in the renal pelvis also. The tumor with divergent differentiation, unusual morphology, and poorly differentiated carcinomas are reported in the epithelial tumor of upper urinary tract. So, the final report should include the relevant clinical information, the nature of the specimen or procedure, the macroscopic feature regarding tumor location, number of the tumor, tumor size, extent of macroscopic tumor invasion, lymph node present or not, and the microscopic data should be tumor type, tumor grade, presence or absence of carcinoma in situ in the surrounding mucosa, the lymphovascular invasion, margin status, and as well as the nodal status.